Hey guys, welcome to this first tutorial we're going to do. Basically I want to show you, this is one of my favourite images that we've done, um, and I think I did this back in probably early 2009, not long after I started shooting with the camera. So I was so completely inexperienced, didn't have a clue what I was doing. I was pretty new to Photoshop as well, um, and I kind of came across this type of effect purely by accident. And quite often I think that's the best way to do it, is if you just play around with different effects and see what looks good and what you like, and try and then uh, learn how to approach Photoshop in a way that you have a vision up front, and you know how to kind of work your way around Photoshop in order to achieve that end goal. But this gives you an idea of how somebody with no experience at all can basically layer up all these different effects and layers to create something which I still think is really, really atmospheric and dark, and it transformed this image which you see on screen at the moment into something completely different. I mean, this looks, which it is just like a normal shot on a decent camera. I took this on a Nikon D80. As I say, it was maybe my third kind of go at photography, really. I borrowed the camera off a brother of mine, and just shot, went up to the north coast of Ireland, and just went around for the day visiting all the different sites around there, and taking different shots. But I want to give you an idea, I want to show you this. This is the original shot. I'll zoom out slightly, um, just to get a bit more perspective here. This is the original shot, and you'll know, if you know much about Photoshop, that it really all comes down to layers, which are all kept over at this side of the screen on the right hand side. But you'll see how I took this original image and basically just created different layers and effects. I'll just go through them one by one, which really built up the entire image to something like this, which is, I mean, this one's very dark. If I were doing this again, I'd probably take off a couple of those layers and maybe, probably leave it like so. What I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of take you through the process from its base level, take all these layers off, and I'll show you how I kind of built up all these different layers. I'll probably do it a bit more succinctly now, and I'll probably be able to work it out in fewer layers. But if you want to, if you have an image that maybe is laid out like this, you want to create this type of effect, this will be a good example of how to go about doing that. Another thing to bear in mind is we're going to be launching our members only area on it's linked to our photography site, zennyphoto.com, but we're going to be launching it at probably the end of March, maybe into April. But what I'm going to be doing as part of the launch is basically giving away this image, giving away the Photoshop document to all members of our photography site. I would normally charge anywhere from kind of 95 to 300 and something dollars for this image, depending on if it's just a digital download or if it's a framed version of the image. So it's one of my favorite images. I love the shot, and it sells really well for me. But I'm going to be basically giving away the Photoshop document. You guys can do with it what you like. You can play around with the layers as you see them here, or you can add in different layers and different effects. And once that is launched, by the way, and you get access to the PSD, I'd love to see what you do with the shot. So if you play about with it and you like what you've done, I'd be really, really interested to see. So send your images back, so we can see them, and can see what you've done with the shot. But if we start from the start, what I liked about this image was it was a pretty kind of thundery day, as you can see from the sky behind. So it's quite atmospheric in itself, but the sun had just come out and it was hitting this temple. This is Mussenden Temple in Northern Ireland. It's right perched, this, you can't really see it here, but it's actually perched on top of this cliff. It's quite an iconic sort of setting within Northern Ireland. But the sun had just come out, and it was, you know, just illuminating the front of this, the temple, the entrance. The other great thing which I loved was the fact that at the time of year which I was shooting, we caught it on the kind of corn looking fields, I don't know what they are, wheat, corn, grass basically, were quite high, and it kind of gave it quite an atmospheric sort of effect. I always get people commenting on the image and the end result saying it's really like that, you know, that shot out of Gladiator when he's walking through the wheat fields and that they're blowing, and his hand is kind of grazing the grass. But I always thought that, you know, when I created the image, that's what I thought, and I'm surprised by how many people have also commented on it. So basically it started out as quite an atmospheric image. You can see the sunlight hitting the front of the temple here. What I loved about it was that the background, you can see the thundery sky in the background, and that created an opportunity to kind of really bring out a good contrast between the sun and the thunderous background colours. So where I started basically was with this image. At the time I was really getting into the basic effects in Photoshop, so I was heavily relying on things like dodge and burn. You'll know if you go over to this little palette. By the way, my Photoshop page is laid out in a certain way. You'll probably have yours laid out in a different way, but if you know the rough sort of tool layouts, then you should be able to follow this really easily. But first of all, what I did was I went to the the burn tool, selected it. I think I went to the shadows, drop the exposure maybe to 13 so we can be a bit more subtle with it, and make sure it's one of the soft brushes up here. You'll see one of these brushes rather than a hard brush. If you do it as a hard brush, you'll see that kind of horrible line appearing. So make sure it's a nice soft brush. Probably bring up the size of it to a fair size, maybe about here, about 600 for this. And then what we're going to do is focus really on the background, the sky first. We're going to copy the base layer like so. If you just drag it down to the little copy box here and let go, that copies it. And then we're gonna focus around the clouds and try and bring out a bit of contrast in the clouds. Because we have the exposure set quite low, 12 there, we should be able to get away with a nice subtle change in that. But really it's kind of you'll learn to kind of feel where you're going with the tool. So as we start here, we'll just kind of click and hold and drag it around the sort of shadowy areas. Keep sort of clicking, play about with it a bit. You see there it's really deepening the background. Go up into the corner here to get the contrast. One thing to be careful of here, which I didn't know about at the start when I was playing about with this image, but if you really go at the burn tool around an item in the foreground, you'll notice it creates this kind of halo effect. I'll just go at it really quickly here. You see this kind of this halo sort of effect around the temple there, which isn't that great looking, so you want to be just careful and try and temper how much you're using the burn tool. You don't want to kind of go overboard with it. That maybe is even a wee bit overboard. And then play about, you make the brush smaller and play about with some of those background areas there as well. Try and bring out these little kind of natural highlights and low shadows within the clouds. See here, try and make it really thundery here. Like so. Okay. Then what I did, once you're kind of happy with the look of that, was try and contrast this grass in the foreground. I'll get on to kind of colour changes and things at the minute. That kind of green that you see in the foreground doesn't really do anything for me. But more than anything, I wanted the kind of nice yellowy corn grass, whatever it is, to really contrast and to be brought out. So what I first of all would have done is get the shadows going within the grass. So use the burn tool again. If you want to copy the layer and just work on kind of each tool as you go, you can of course do that. So maybe that's a better thing, because then you can mix and match layers a bit more easily. But say we copy that again, Then we start going at the grass here, and try to allow that nice yellow kind of corn to really kind of sit up. What you could do as well, we've got this set, the burn tool set the shadows, maybe drop it up to mid-tones. The shadows can make everything a bit too much burnt out, and you want to kind of create a nice subtle change in these things. So say once you play about with that, I'll maybe go up to this other kind of central area again, just to contrast the nice yellow tones in the background as well. We want those to really stand out as well. And then maybe some of the sea as well, that kind of create a bit of a sunlight effect on the sea. Once you're happy with that, if you basically you can use the little eye tool here to take out your last layer. You can see the difference that's made just from the first two layers being added, the contrast there. As I said, maybe copy the layer again for our next effect, which is going to be the dodge tool. Again, set it to an exposure pretty low, so it's going to be a subtle effect. We'll also maybe make it to the highlights and make the brush slightly smaller if we can. Well, that's it there. And then what we're going to do is really try and bring out the nice yellow, even more of a contrast on the front of the temple. So if you just click and drag over the yellow of the grass there, that's really burnt it out. So we'll maybe just go back a little bit to there, and we'll drop the exposure again. Again, it's really kind of about feeling out the different effects you can do here. But you'll see how just dragging it across the highlighted areas is really bringing out the colours in the grass. And we can, if they're a bit bright and a bit contrasty, we can always drop those down later on. And then we'll have a go at the doorway of the temple. Really try and bring that out. Okay, maybe even have a go around the sky to try and bring out some of the highlights within that. You see that nice blue coming out within the sky when we drag the dodge tool over that. Maybe even drop the brush down and go over the sea a little, just to bring out a bit of that as well. Now, once you're kind of happy with where you are with that, if you go too far, you can always go back. On a Mac, it's Alt-Command-Z to jump back, or you can always just go up to Edit, Undo, or Command-Z jumps you forward to the latest change. But once you're kind of happy enough with that, then this is kind of where the trick comes in. This is a little effect I kind of discovered with this, just from playing about. But if I copy a layer, this is something I use quite a lot, certainly for landscapes. But if I copy the layer, the top layer here that you see, just in here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make it black and white. So if you go to Image Adjustments, Black and White, you'll see that brings up your options for that. That's actually quite a nice shot in and of itself, because we've brought out the contrast in the grass and the entrance to the temple. But what we're going to do is, I'm sort of happy enough with all the presets. You can drag these about and make them darker or lighter or wherever you want to go. I'm pretty much happy with where they're at. So what I'm going to do is just click OK, and then go over to the blending options here. This little layers area here, it'll be set to normal as standard for the layer that you have selected. And then what you do is you drop that down, and we're going to go down to soft light and select that. You'll see there immediately the contrast has been brought out even more. There's more deeper blacks and more of a contrast in the colour. I probably don't want to use it at 100%. So I mean, if you drop it down to 0, you'll see where it goes up to 100. Say we'll go for about 65 there, 65%. Again, play about with it yourselves. Once you're happy with that, what's the next move? Well, for me, the entrance to the temple and the grass are a little bit yellowy. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go back to the last coloured layer here, and you'll see on the right hand side, and I'm going to go into the colour options here by doing Command U, and we're going to drop the saturation down a wee bit. You'll see here if you drop it, you can go way up or you can go way down to almost nothing or anywhere in between. If we drop it maybe just down to -15, I'm going to leave the hue where it is. You can of course play about with that, add in different effects, different little colorations and things like that, but I'll leave it at -17, click OK, and then I'm also going to go into the selective color. So if you go to Image, Adjustments, Selective Color, you can go into the yellows. Again, I'm not too happy with the yellows are a wee bit bold in this version, so I'm going to go into the yellows and start looking at the blacks. You see there as I move it around, it really changes the effect. I'm going to drop the blacks down there, down to about -30. I'm going to maybe change, I'm going to take out some of the, actually, do you know what? I'm going to pop the yellows here up to about -3. Keep the magenta in. You can see there it's getting very greeny if I drop that. I'm going to keep the magenta maybe +5 and probably just leave the cyan where it is, 0. Then what I'm going to do is click OK. And you can see already we're kind of getting to where we want it to go at the start. We're bringing out the grass. There's nice contrast in here. It's not too greeny, not too yellowy. What I want to do is maybe bring out some of the colours in the background here. So if you go to the marquee, the lasso tool over here, just select the normal lasso, go up to the feather value and set it quite high, maybe depends on the resolution of your camera. I'm going to set this to 120 pixels. And then I'm just going to draw a selection around a portion of the sky that's going to be the main kind of focus area. Then what I'm going to do is go to Command U again. Maybe going to see how it looks with the saturation up. See there, it gets very, very blue. I just want to bring out some more of the blues and the purples. So I'm going to up the saturation there by 25-26%. Change the hue to be a little more purpley maybe. Say about there, +7. And click OK. And then you can go in again to maybe the selective colours and look through the cyans. You maybe change the darkness and things until it matches. You see what if you drop the black on that, it becomes very grainy here, which may be an effect you maybe like to see. I'm going to just keep it kind of a bit smoother for now. Maybe add in more of the cyan again. You see that coming out in the sky. Quite like that effect, gives it that nice thundery sort of look. Again, play about with these. Quite like that, the way it's sitting at the minute. And then if you do Command D just to deselect, we're getting there. You see there's some contrast in. I haven't actually sharpened the image yet as well. So if we go to the last color layer, go to Filter. I normally use Unsharp Mask, so go to Sharpen, Unsharp Mask. You'll see this is set to 81%. Just want to sharpen some of the details around the stone and whatnot. At the moment we'll go for 91% with a radius of 1.8 pixels. Leave the threshold at 0 and click OK. And then if you zoom up, you can see it's slightly sharper around there. The other thing I did in this image in the original was to just to create a bit more depth in the image, was to blur out some of the foreground grass here. So again, if we take our we'll actually copy this layer, and then we're going to select a rough area around here using our lasso. Again, keep the feather value quite high, so it's set at 120 pixels at the minute. You can see there it does that. And then if we go up to Filter and to Blur, and then down to Gaussian Blur, and just select that, and you'll see at the moment it's set to 8 pixel radius, which is maybe a bit too much, so I'm going to drop that down. I think probably around there. 4.7 pixels is pretty good. Creates that blur effect, gives the shot a bit more depth, but it's not too much to the point where it looks really artificial. And then if we deselect the selected area, you'll see there the change. If I go back and then forward, just creates that extra little bit of depth in the image. Okay. Now, again, I'm kind of looking at this thinking it's maybe a bit too saturated around the whole of the image. You may very well be happy with this image as it is, and you like the saturation, which isn't 100%. Again, play about with it and see where you want to take the image. But in the original, it was very much more washed out. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select the last color area again, and then I'm going to go into Command U, into the hue again. I'm going to drop this saturation down. So there's just a hint of all those colours coming through. You can see there, I just think that looks a wee bit better, a little bit more natural, and more atmospheric. Now, another thing I can think of doing right now is to maybe go into the image and go to the curves settings and just see, again, we've selected this last colour layer. So what's happening here is the colour is coming up through the top layer, which is the black and white layer set to soft light. If you take that out, you can see there's not so much of a contrast. Add it back in, you get that nice deep black and contrast effect going on. But if we go to the last colour effect and go to image and curves, and then again play about with this, just I like to keep it in this this kind of dot setting where you select it and then just drag, see where you want to go with the image. I don't want to change it too much, but maybe just bring out some more of the highlights, contrast it a bit more. So I'm just selecting up in the tonal kind of range here, just dragging it up. See, maybe too much there. Again, just play about with these settings, dropping the shadows down again here, or bringing them up. I like to see nice deep shadows, so we'll go for something like that. And that's pretty much kind of where we're at. If you add in these other layers just from scratch and see where we had gone with it, that to me was too much, the original shot. Probably just in evidence of me not being that experienced with the shot and how to work Photoshop. If you take it all the way back, that was almost the original shot, and then this is where we've come with it. So strip it back to nothing, that's where we started, and that's where we've come to now. And again, feel free to add in different little effects. Maybe a diffuse glow effect might be quite nice. Depends how kind of ethereal you want the whole thing to appear. What the thing to do is I need to select white whenever you do the diffuse glow for this type of effect. Let's switch these round so the white is on the bottom. Then go up to Filter, Distort, Diffuse Glow. You can see there how that's affecting the grass. It's sort of taking a lot of the detail out. So normally you drop it way back, maybe even about there, just so that none of the clouds are burning out either. We'll maybe add up a bit of graininess to it, just to give it a bit more sort of atmosphere. Once you're set, once you're happy with the layout and the setting there, just click OK. You see the difference there, the way the sky has been brought out. If we go back, you see the change, how the grass, the sky, the highlights there. So whatever you prefer, be open to playing about with different things. But this just shows you how you can take an image from a single layer, which is pretty boring, and just build it up using different effects in Photoshop. Very, very basic effects as well. Nothing you need any technical expertise around, but they just create something that's really quite atmospheric. So hopefully that tutorial has been of help. As I said at the start, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be releasing this entire Photoshop document for all members of the members area, and once that launches in kind of probably late March time, 2012. So make sure you get in early, register. You can register throughout the zennyphoto.com site. There's a little subscribe form at the sidebar. On most of the pages there's a pop-up that will come on your first visit to the site on the home page. If you want to see that again to sign up, just clear your history or your page cache, and that will pop up after maybe 10 to 15 seconds, and you just fill out your name and email and you will get instant access to this Photoshop document, but also a whole range of benefits going forward. We'll be giving away images every month, giving away PSDs that you can work on, and you can play about with yourselves, giving away advice and ongoing tutorials like this one, just to show you how we create the images we create and the effects that we create. So hopefully this has been of help. Hopefully you've enjoyed it. Keep in touch, and as I say, once we launch the giveaway of this Photoshop document, feel free to play about with it. We'd love to see what you do with it. So email some examples back to us. We'd be really keen to see those. And in the meantime, have a good day. Cheers.